The next section of our VFR terms and symbols is going to be navigational and procedural information. We have the isogonic line and value, we have local and magnetic notes, and there's something really important about magnetic. It's unreliable in the sense that depending on where you are in the world, magnetic north can have a specific degree of error that is significant. You have intersections, so this is where you have like flights going across. You can see the arrows indicating the actual direction that aircraft may be crossing. You also have aeronautical lights. These are important. They're by request. You have rotating or oscillating. So if you see something like this, the light is rotating around. You have just an isolated location. So this is just some place out there in the United States, and it's just a star with this right here. So that's an isolated location light. You have rotating light with flashing code and an identification light. That's going to be these two. Well, these three, if it has the arrows from it, right? It's rotating, flashing. This one is also isolated as well. This one is isolated, and this is for a rotating light with course lights and a site number. So the site number FL it could change depending on the site. Before we look to the left, let's look to the right at marine lights. And marine lights are going to be white unless otherwise noted. If they're alternating, they're going to be red and white unless otherwise noted. And you also have these, and so you're going to have these different values that they could else be. And these are the other colors that could be red. You have green, blue, orange. You have long flashing, all these different types of lights that you could run into if you run into marine lights. So let's look back to the left at airport beacons. You have rotating or flashing, and it's denoted with the star right here. You have isolated locations as well. You have VFR checkpoints, and visual flight rule checkpoints are denoted with a flag on top of something. You have VFR waypoints. Something super important is obstruction. So let's get into obstructions. This is kind of a big subsection in this section. If you see something with a little triangle like this, it means it's going to be an obstruction that's between 200 to 1,000 feet above ground level. It could be above 299 feet above ground level in an urban area. So if you're, in an urban area, you're going to be around 300 feet AGL to 1,000. But if you are just out flying over obstacles, mountains, no urban area, you're just going to be usually between 200 feet and 1,000 feet above ground level. And remember, obstructions are on the ground, so you can think of it that they're being measured in above ground level, not MSL, which is mean sea level. If it's under construction, it's going to be the same symbol, except it's going to have a UC next to it. Now that's for 200 to 1,000 feet AGL. If it's 1,000 feet and higher with AGL, it's going to be a kind of bigger, skinnier, taller triangle. That's what it's going to look like, basically. You have wind turbines as well, and they are represented with something that looks like a wind turbine. You can see these numbers next to these. Well, what are these? The number on top means MSL, so that's mean sea level. That's how much it is above the sea level. If you look to the right of these, you can see a bunch of numbers. Now, what are these numbers? Well, the number on top is MSL, mean sea level. That's why it's so big. This bottom one in parentheses, it is smaller. It's above ground level. It's not always given, like for here, it's not given. This one is given as 394 feet above ground level. This one is at 1,529 feet above ground level, and these windmills, the tallest turbine, would be 315 feet above ground level, while it's 2,179 feet above sea level. You have group obstruction. So same rules apply. If you have these smaller triangles, it's 200 feet to 1,000 feet AGL, 299 feet AGL in urban areas, and they just have these two triangles next to each other. Now, if it's 1,000 feet and higher AGL, if it's got smaller obstacles as well as bigger ones, it's going to list the bigger one on the right for the actual height, but it's going to show both. If it's at least two in a group of 1,000 feet and higher, it's going to be two of these skinnier triangles just like this. Multiple wind turbines are going to be represented by this. And if you have a whole wind turbine farm, it's just going to be a single wind turbine with a dotted line around it to show the area where all these wind turbines are located. And the highest wind turbine will have a number right here. That's going to be its MSL value. That's important to note. It can be a little confusing because I know this is usually AGL, but it's a large number, right? So this is MSL. Usually it's MSL if it's a bigger number like this. If it is unverified, the actual height of it, it'll still have a number, but it also might include a UC or just a UC, and that means that the windmill height is unverified, the actual tallest part of it. Maximum elevation figure, MEF, is essentially the tallest figure within a given location. Sometimes the sectional charts aren't going to list off everything, and that's just to keep things simplified, so it'll just list the tallest thing in the area. Now let's go back to lights in our obstructions. So we have high intensity obstruction lights. The same rules apply to everything. So less than 1,000 feet AGL is a small triangle, but with this little light symbol above it. Same thing with 1,000 feet and higher. Wind turbines have a little light above it. Group obstructions have little lights above it, and wind turbines will have little lights above it. So that's just the lights with our obstructions. We've gone over some other obstructions, and that's pretty much it for our navigational and procedural information. Next, we'll look at chart limits, culture, hydrography, and finish off with relief. That'll be it for our VFR section.